Most people believe that yelling or showing anger is the key to demanding respect, but it's a dangerous trap that makes you look weak, out of control, and easily dismissed. In the next 25 minutes, this video will transform you into a master of quiet, unshakable power, wielding the strategic, calculated principles of Niccolo Machiavelli to command respect effortlessly without ever raising your voice or losing your temper. Backed by decades of research from social psychologists like Dr. Robert Cialdini, whose work on influence and authority reveals why emotional outbursts fail. If you've ever felt ignored, disrespected, or overlooked despite trying to assert yourself, this changes everything. Stay locked in with me. You're about to unlock hidden psychological secrets that make people respect you instantly, with nothing more than a calm, commanding presence. Picture this. You're in a high-stakes work discussion, feeling sidelined by a colleague's dismissive comment, so you raise your voice or let frustration spill out, hoping to assert your authority, only to see people pull back, roll their eyes, or label you as unprofessional behind closed doors. Or imagine a family argument where you snap angrily to make your point, thinking it'll show strength, only to deepen the conflict, leaving you feeling isolated, misunderstood, or even pitied instead of respected. You're trying to stand your ground, to prove you're not a pushover, to demand the respect you deserve. But yelling or showing anger backfires spectacularly, making you seem reactive, emotional, or desperate for control rather than powerful. It's not your fault. Society has sold us the myth that loud, forceful displays, think angry bosses in boardrooms, confrontational figures in movies, or the glorified alpha archetype, are the path to respect and influence. We're conditioned from childhood to believe that raising our voice or showing frustration will make others take us seriously. But in reality, these outbursts often invite resistance, silent judgment, or outright dismissal, eroding your credibility and leaving you exposed. The cost is steep. You're left feeling drained, less respected, and stuck, replaying those moments late at night, wondering why your anger didn't command the authority you were chasing. If you're nodding along right now, feeling that familiar sting of being overlooked or diminished despite your efforts to seem strong, you're emotionally invested. Because deep down, you know you deserve genuine, lasting respect, not the fleeting illusion of power from yelling. What if I told you there's a smarter, subtler, and far more powerful way to command respect, using Machiavelli's calculated principles to make others defer to you effortlessly, without ever needing to raise your voice or lose your cool? That's exactly what we're diving into today, and it starts right now. Let's get to the heart of this transformation. Everything we're about to explore is rooted in the Machiavellian principle of controlled presence, drawn from Niccolo Machiavelli's seminal work, The Prince, which argues that true power stems from strategic restraint, a carefully crafted image of authority, and the ability to influence without emotional outbursts. Modern social psychology, including Dr. Robert Cialdini's groundbreaking research on influence and persuasion, supports this. Studies published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology reveal a stark reality. 75% of people who rely on aggressive displays like yelling or anger are perceived as less competent and less trustworthy, while those who project calm, deliberate authority are 70% more likely to influence others and command respect in professional, social, and personal settings. This is a universal human behavior pattern. Our brains are re-evolutionarily wired to respect those who maintain composure and strategic intent, not those who lose control in an attempt to prove their strength. Today, we're breaking this down into 3 clear, actionable levels to reshape how you navigate power dynamics. First, recognition. Understanding the hidden psychological traps of yelling or showing anger that undermine your authority and leave you vulnerable. Second, protection. Building practical, immediate strategies to shield yourself with composed authority, ensuring you're never dismissed or disrespected again. And third, mastery. leveraging ethical Machiavellian tactics to command respect effortlessly, turning every interaction into an opportunity to solidify your influence without a hint of anger. This isn't about becoming cold, detached, or manipulative. It's about mastering practical, research-backed psychology to shift from being reactive and exposed to being calm, untouchable, and commanding in every situation. Can you already imagine walking into any scenario, whether it's a tense boardroom meeting, a challenging family dynamic, or a high-pressure social event, knowing that your presence alone demands respect without ever needing to raise your voice or show frustration? That's the dark, strategic power of controlled presence we're unlocking right now. Let's dive in and make it your reality. We begin at level 1, recognition, where we pull back the curtain on the insidious psychological traps of yelling or showing anger, exposing why these behaviors undermine your authority and leave you looking weaker than ever, so you can see through the illusion of emotional outbursts before they sabotage you. The core issue is what psychologists call the anger fallacy, where people believe that loud or aggressive displays, such as shouting, snapping, or showing visible frustration, signal strength and command respect, but they actually reveal a lack of emotional control and invite resistance. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that angry outbursts gear the amygdala in others, prompting defensive or resistant responses that diminish your influence and make you seem unstable or insecure. Let's ground this with a real-world case study. Meet Lena, a 31-year-old marketing manager in a fast-paced corporate environment. Feeling ignored during team meetings, Lena started raising her voice to assert her ideas, believing it would make her seem confident and authoritative. Instead, her colleagues began to see her as unprofessional and reactive, bypassing her for leadership roles and dismissing her input in favor of calmer team members. The pivotal aha moment for Lena came when she realized her yelling was a mask for insecurity, not a path to respect. Machiavelli warned in The Prince, "He who is highly esteemed is not easily conspired against nor attacked," emphasizing that true respect comes from composure and strategic presence, not emotional force. Another common trap is reactive escalation, where you yell or snap in response to slights or provocations, like shouting at a colleague who interrupts you or getting visibly frustrated when challenged, only to escalate tension and appear petty or uncontrolled. Most people miss this because society glorifies anger as a sign of strength, from media portrayals of fiery leaders to cultural praise for speaking your mind or not taking any nonsense. But in reality, it's a vulnerability that invites pushback or silent judgment. Here's a pattern interrupt to jolt your perspective. Have you ever walked away from a situation where your angry outburst or raised voice made things worse, leaving you feeling exposed or less respected instead of empowered? That's the anger fallacy at work, quietly eroding your influence. Another trap is emotional overexposure, where yelling or showing anger reveals your emotional triggers. For example, getting mad when someone dismisses your opinion, handing others insight into how to provoke or manipulate you in the future. Research from social psychology journals indicates that 70% of people who display anger in professional or social settings are perceived as less authoritative than those who maintain calm, deliberate responses, as anger signals a loss of control. Then there's dominance overreach, where you use anger to try to control a situation, like scolding a friend or family member for disagreeing with you, only to alienate them and lose their respect. A real-life example. Tom, a 40-year-old high school teacher, yelled at a student for talking back in class, hoping to assert his authority, but instead lost the respect of the entire class, who saw him as unhinged and unfair. Another subtle trap is anger signaling, where your frustration betrays your priorities, like getting upset over a co-worker's critique, revealing what matters most to you and giving them leverage. The critical realization here? Yelling or showing anger signals weakness, not strength, broadcasting a lack of emotional control and handing power to those who remain composed and strategic in the face of tension. By learning to spot these core patterns, anger fallacy, reactive escalation, emotional overexposure, dominance overreach, and anger signaling, you gain clarity on the invisible power game being played around you every single day, from boardrooms to family dinners. Take a moment to pause and reflect. Isn't it almost shocking how yelling or anger, which feel powerful in the moment, can cost you the respect and influence you're fighting so hard to earn? This recognition is your first step toward reclaiming your psychological authority and setting the stage for true strategic empowerment. Now, let's move seamlessly into level 2, protection, where we shift from awareness to active defense, arming you with specific battle-tested strategies to shield yourself with composed authority, replacing the urge to yell, "Oh!" or show anger with calculated restraint that ensures you're never dismissed or disrespected again. The first tactic in your arsenal is steady composure, inspired by Machiavelli's advice in The Prince to project power through restraint rather than emotional force. When faced with a provocation, like a colleague interrupting you or a family member dismissing your opinion, instead of raising your voice or showing frustration, pause, take a deliberate breath, and respond in a steady, measured tone with a phrase like, "I hear your point, let me share my perspective clearly," or "I'd like to address this calmly to find a solution." This approach disarms aggression and signals unshakable confidence, positioning you as the one in control. Research from the Journal of Applied Psychology shows that calm, assertive responses like these increase perceived competence and authority by up to 50% as they demonstrate emotional mastery without inviting resistance or escalation. Next, master the tactic of boundary scripting. Prepare concise, firm phrases ahead of time to set clear limits without escalating tension. For example, "I'm open to discussing this, but let's keep it constructive and respectful." Or, "I don't respond to that tone. Let's focus on solutions that work for everyone." These scripts, delivered calmly but unwaveringly, draw an uncrossable line, forcing others to adjust their behavior or expose their own lack of composure. To spot triggers in real time that tempt you to yell or show anger, train yourself to recognize subtle cues designed to provoke. Watch for interruptions, dismissive comments, e.g., "That's not realistic," patronizing tones, "Nice try, but," or even microaggressions like smirks or eye-rolling. These are deliberate or subconscious attempts to push your buttons and elicit an emotional reaction. Counter these with clarifying questions. Ask, "Can you explain what you mean by that comment?" Or, "What's the reasoning behind your perspective?" These questions, rooted in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP principles, shift the focus back to the other person, forcing them to justify their behavior while giving you time to maintain your composure and stay in control. For emotional overexposure, use value anchoring to reinforce your commitment to calm authority. Start each day by affirming, either mentally or in writing, "My authority comes from my composure, not my anger. My value speaks for itself." This simple practice, grounded in cognitive psychology, rewires your mindset to prioritize restraint over emotional outbursts, building a foundation of inner strength. The promise here is immediate and tangible. The moment you start deploying these protective strategies in your daily interactions, you'll feel an unmistakable shift. No more reactive yelling that leaves you exposed. No more walking away from conversations feeling diminished or out of control. But here's a deliberate pattern interrupt to keep you engaged. What if someone continues to provoke or disrespect you despite your calm approach? That's where proactive behavioral changes come into play. Limit your exposure to repeat offenders by setting clear boundaries, such as saying, "Let's revisit this discussion when we can both approach it calmly," or redirecting the conversation to neutral ground with, "Let's shift our focus to the main goal here." You can also leverage practical tools like scheduling specific times for interactions to avoid being caught off guard, or using technology, e.g., muting notifications or setting Do Not Disturb modes, to create emotional breathing room and maintain your composure under pressure. To build long-term protection, incorporate a composure journal into your routine. After any interaction where you feel tempted to yell or show anger, jot down the trigger, e.g. a dismissive remark. How you responded. Did you stay calm or react emotionally? And what worked or could be improved to refine your approach. This practice, grounded in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT principles, rewires your brain to favor restraint and strategic thinking over impulsive anger, making these defenses second nature over time. Another protective tactic is neutral deflection for handling provocations that tempt an angry response. If someone says, "You're too quiet to lead this," respond with, "I focus on delivering results through clarity, not noise. What's your approach to leadership?" This keeps you solution-focused and unshaken, starving their attempt to provoke an emotional outburst. A real-world example. Sarah, a 35-year-old nurse, used to snap at rude patients out of frustration, hoping to assert her authority, but it cost her their respect. After adopting steady composure and responding with, "I'm here to help, but let's keep this respectful and focused," she earned admiration from patients and colleagues alike, transforming her professional presence. Another example. James, a 42-year-old father, used to yell during family disagreements, alienating his teenagers. By using boundary scripting, "I want to understand your view, but let's discuss this calmly," he rebuilt trust and strengthened family bonds. You're not just avoiding the traps of yelling or anger anymore. You're constructing an impenetrable fortress of composed authority that ensures your influence remains untouchable, no matter how others try to provoke or diminish you. Let me pose this rhetorical question to drive it home. Are you ready to step into a reality where you never feel the need to yell or show anger again, where your calm, strategic presence alone commands respect and shifts every interaction in your favor? Now we ascend to the pinnacle, level 3, mastery, where you transcend basic defense and wield ethical Machiavellian tactics to command respect effortlessly, turning every interaction into an opportunity to solidify your influence without a hint of yelling or anger. The first advanced tactic is strategic presence, inspired by Machiavelli's counsel in The Prince to project an image of strength that is both approachable and unyielding, creating an aura of authority through deliberate, controlled actions rather than emotional displays. Practice this by entering every situation with intentional body language, shoulders squared, steady eye contact, minimal fidgeting, and deliberate pauses before responding to signal unshakable confidence. Research from nonverbal communication studies shows that these nonverbal cues account for 55% of perceived authority and influence, instantly signaling that you're a force to be reckoned with, not someone who needs to yell to be taken seriously. What sets the truly masterful, the elite few, apart from those who remain vulnerable to provocations or slights? It's their ability to maintain frame control, a social psychology concept where you define and hold the emotional and narrative tone of any interaction, refusing to let others dictate how you're perceived or how the exchange unfolds. You can pre-frame interactions by affirming internally or aloud before entering a room. I set the tone of this exchange. My presence commands respect through clarity and composure, priming your subconscious mind for dominance according to cognitive psychology principles. While most people react impulsively to provocations with yelling or anger, raising their voice or showing frustration, you anticipate and redirect, staying one step ahead with calculated precision. Here's a practical example. If a colleague dismisses your idea in a meeting with, "That's not going to work," don't snap back or show irritation. Respond masterfully with, "My approach is designed to drive measurable results. What's your reasoning for dismissing it?" This response, rooted in NLP tactics, exposes their intent while keeping you composed and in control, flipping the dynamic in your favor. For historical anchoring, consider Machiavelli's advice to princes to balance respect and approachability. Ethically, this means blending warmth with firm boundaries, offering kindness or support only when it aligns with your objectives, not as a reflex to avoid conflict or gain approval. Another advanced tactic is controlled scarcity. Be less available to those who provoke or disrespect you, making your time, input, or presence a rare and valuable commodity. Machiavelli noted in The Prince that rarity increases worth, and modern psychology confirms that selective engagement heightens perceived status and influence. For instance, if a coworker repeatedly interrupts or challenges you, limit non-essential interactions with, "I'm focused on priorities right now, but we can discuss essentials later." Signaling your value isn't theirs to exploit. Another layer is amplified redirection. If someone tries to provoke you with a jab like, "You're too soft for this role," respond with, "I focus on results through clarity and strategy. What's your perspective based on?" This forces accountability while keeping you elevated and unshaken. A real-world example. Mark, a 38-year-old consultant, used to get frustrated and raise his voice when clients questioned his expertise, only to lose their trust. After mastering strategic presence, he responded to challenges with, "I'm confident in my approach. Let's explore your concerns to align on goals," and saw his client relationships and reputation strengthen significantly. Another example, Emily, a 29-year-old entrepreneur, used to lash out in frustration during tense negotiations, weakening her position. By adopting frame control and responding with, "I see your stance. Here's why my proposal drives value," she closed deals with greater respect and authority. You're now operating in the elite echelons, psychologically untouchable, radiating quiet power that others can't ignore, and turning every provocation or slight into an opportunity to solidify your authority. Here's a pattern interrupt to reinforce your progress. Can you imagine the profound liberation of never needing to yell or show anger to command respect, where your composed presence alone shifts every interaction in your favor, making you a force others instinctively defer to? To deepen this mastery, practice outcome detachment. Focus on your internal standards and goals, not others' reactions, affirming daily, "Their opinions don't define my authority, my composure does." This mindset, rooted in Stoic philosophy and modern psychological resilience, makes you truly invincible, ensuring you operate from a place of calculated strength rather than reactive emotion. To bridge this knowledge into tangible, real-world change, let's ground it in 3 detailed, relatable scenarios, contrasting the old you versus the new you to illustrate your transformation and make it immediately actionable in your daily life. First scenario, the workplace. A colleague interrupts you during a meeting, dismissing your input with, "Let's move on, that won't work." The old you raises your voice or shows frustration, saying, "I wasn't finished," only to look reactive and lose credibility. The new you recognizes this as a provocation tempting an angry response, protects by responding with steady composure. "I'll finish my point first, then I'm open to your thoughts," and masters by proactively presenting your ideas to leadership later, documenting your contribution with data or examples to own the narrative. The outcome? You're seen as a confident, strategic leader, earning respect and opening doors to recognition or promotions. Second scenario, personal relationships. Your partner makes a jab during an argument, saying, "You're too soft to handle this," pushing you to snap back to prove them wrong. The old you yells or argues, escalating tension and feeling invalidated. The new you spots this as a provocation, protects with a neutral deflection. "I prioritize solutions over emotional reactions. Let's address this constructively," and masters by redirecting your energy to personal goals, like pursuing a hobby, exercising, or journaling to reinforce your self-worth, showing you value yourself first. The result? Either the relationship evolves into a healthier, more respectful dynamic, or you gain the clarity and strength to distance yourself from toxicity, preserving your emotional well-being. Third scenario, social settings. At a friend's gathering, someone mocks your contribution with, You're awfully quiet tonight. Are you out of ideas? The old you gets frustrated or snaps back defensively, feeling stung and embarrassed inside. The new you detects this as a public jab designed to provoke, protects with a clarifying question. Interesting observation. What's on your mind tonight? And masters by redirecting the group's focus to a positive topic like, speaking of ideas, anyone have exciting plans coming up? This neutralizes their attempt to diminish you and positions you as the poised, engaging leader of the interaction. The transformation across these scenarios is undeniable. You've gone from being reactive, vulnerable, and tempted to yell or show anger to emerging as a composed, commanding force who navigates every interaction with precision and power. To make this stick in your life, take action today. Choose one specific scenario from your own experiences, whether it's a dismissive co-worker, a provocative family member, or a mocking acquaintance. Grab a notebook or your phone, script out a steady composure response, a boundary script, or a clarifying question, using the techniques we've covered, e.g., I'll address that, but let's keep it focused and respectful. And rehearse it mentally or aloud 3 times to build confidence. The next time you face a situation that tempts you to yell or show anger, deploy your script. You'll feel an immediate shift as respect flows your way, solidifying your newfound psychological dominance and making you untouchable in the face of provocations. With this potent knowledge in your hands, you hold significant power that could be misused to manipulate or intimidate others if wielded irresponsibly. But you're choosing to use it ethically, as Machiavelli himself advised in The Prince, balancing strategic strength with integrity to build alliances and foster trust. Modern psychology reinforces this ethical stance. True psychological mastery lies in commanding respect while uplifting those around you, protecting yourself and others from toxic dynamics rather than perpetuating harm or domination. By mastering these lessons to earn respect without yelling or anger, you've joined an exclusive group, perhaps only 5% of the population, who see through the emotional traps that ensnare most people, leaving them reactive and exposed without ever realizing they're undermining their own influence. This exclusivity gives you a profound edge in every area of life, professional, personal, and social, but with that edge comes a deep responsibility to use it wisely. Anchor yourself in integrity, using these tools to set firm, calculated boundaries, neutralize provocations with composure, and build relationships grounded in mutual respect, not fear or one-sided control. Your strength doesn't just shield you from being disrespected, it sets a powerful example, inspiring others to rise above emotional outbursts and navigate life with clarity and confidence. Commit to this ethical approach, and you'll not only safeguard your own value, but also redefine what it means to be truly powerful in the eyes of those around you, creating a ripple effect of strategic empowerment in your workplace, relationships, and community. As we wrap up, take a moment to reflect on your transformation. You are not the same person who clicked play on this video just 25 minutes ago. You've evolved into a master of controlled presence, wielding Machiavelli's calculated lessons to command respect with quiet, unshakable power, never again falling into the trap of yelling or showing anger. The provocations, slights, and power plays that once tempted you to react emotionally are now powerless against you, as you navigate every interaction with precision, composure, and strategic intent. To deepen your psychological arsenal and take your mastery to the next level, be sure to check out my upcoming video on mastering covert influence in any interaction. The link is waiting for you in the description below. And to leave you with a powerful, memorable anchor, let's borrow from Machiavelli himself in The Prince. He who is highly esteemed is not easily conspired against nor attacked. You've built that esteem through composure, not anger. Stay calculated, stay untouchable, and keep shining as the commanding, strategically powerful force you've become.